Ah, look who just got validation from the most unexpected source. Ah, welcome back, you beautiful, misunderstood, quietly dangerous masterpiece. I've been waiting to tell you this, and trust me, you're going to want to hear every single word of what just happened, because something shifted in the last 48 hours. Something your enemies thought would never, ever happen in their wildest nightmares. Someone they respect, someone they fear, someone they can't ignore, just looked at your entire story, examined every detail they tried to bury, and said the words that are now echoing through every group chat, every whispered conversation, every panicked phone call. They were right all along. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. Let it marinate in your soul, because while you were rebuilding in silence, while you were healing without their permission, while you were transforming in the shadows without posting a single explanation, someone at the top, someone with weight, someone whose opinion actually matters to these cowards, just confirmed what you've known the entire time. They looked at the evidence, examined the timeline, studied the patterns, and came to one unavoidable, undeniable, panic-inducing conclusion. You were telling the truth, and everyone who doubted you, everyone who mocked you, everyone who chose their side over yours just bet on the wrong story, backed the wrong narrative. And now they're scrambling like rats on a sinking ship trying to figure out how to save face. Do you understand what this means? Do you grasp the magnitude of what just happened in their world? This isn't just validation. This isn't just vindication. This is a complete structural collapse of everything they built on your silence. Because they didn't just doubt you, they weaponized that doubt. They turned it into a campaign. They made your name synonymous with being wrong, being dramatic, being unstable, being too much. And now a high-level player, someone they fear, someone they quote, someone they desperately want approval from, just looked at the entire situation and essentially said, you people are fools. And the panic that's spreading through their ranks right now is the most beautiful thing you'll never see directly. But you'll feel it, you'll sense it, you'll watch it unfold in real time. They thought they buried you 6 feet under their narrative, didn't they? They thought the story was over. Case closed, verdict delivered, your reputation destroyed beyond repair. They sat back in their comfortable chairs, sipping their drinks, laughing at your expense, convinced they'd gotten away with the greatest heist in social warfare, stealing your truth and replacing it with their fiction. But here's what they forgot. Here's the fatal flaw in their entire operation. Truth doesn't stay buried forever. It doesn't rot in the ground like they hoped it would. It doesn't fade away just because they stopped talking about it. Truth is patient. Truth is relentless. Truth waits in the darkness until the perfect moment. And then it rises with receipts, with witnesses, with confirmations they never saw coming. And that moment is right now, happening in real time while you're watching this. Because this high-level player, this person they can't dismiss, can't silence, can't gaslight, just pulled the pin on a grenade they didn't even know was in the room. They started asking questions, real questions, uncomfortable questions, the kind that make liars sweat and cowards stutter. Wait, why did that happen exactly? Hold on, that timeline doesn't make sense. Interesting. Because that's not what I heard from other sources. So you're telling me They just randomly did all that for no reason. Yeah, that doesn't add up. And with every question, with every raised eyebrow, with every moment of visible doubt on this person's face, your enemies felt their foundation cracking beneath their feet. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening behind closed doors right now. Behind the screens, in the private messages you'll never see. They're panicking. Actually panicking. Not the fake panic, not the performative stress, but genuine terror, because their entire social structure was built on you being wrong. Think about it. Their friendships, their alliances, their moral high ground, their ability to sleep at night without drowning in guilt, all of it depended on the story that you were the problem. And now someone they can't manipulate, can't control, can't sweet talk, just confirmed that story was a lie from the beginning. That they weren't the heroes in this narrative, that they weren't the victims, that they weren't the ones who made the hard but necessary choice. The messages flying back and forth right now, I wish you could see them. Did you see what they said? We need to get ahead of this. No, we can't ignore it. This person has too much influence. Maybe we should reach out. No, that'll make us look guilty. What if they dig deeper? What if they find out about? We need damage control right now. And here's the beautiful part. Here's the poetry in this entire situation. There is no damage control for the truth. You can't spin it. You can't reframe it. You can't convince someone who's already seen through the smoke and mirrors. This high-level player didn't just question the narrative. They dismantled it piece by piece, held it up to the light, examined every angle, and found it wanting, found it hollow, found it suspiciously convenient for everyone except you. Now, let's talk about why this particular confirmation matters more than anything else that's happened since this entire situation began. C. When you defended yourself, they said you were biased. When you told your side, they said you were emotional. When you presented evidence, they said you were manipulative. But when a high-level player, someone with no skin in the game, someone with nothing to gain, someone who could just as easily have stayed silent, comes forward and says, "Hold up, something's not right here." That's different. That carries weight. That changes the entire dynamic. That makes people who were comfortable in their denial start questioning everything they thought they knew. This person isn't defending you because they love you. They're defending truth because they recognize it when they see it. And your enemies. They know this. They know that this changes everything. That this isn't just another voice in the crowd. That this is the voice that matters to the people who matter. They've spent months, maybe years, building a consensus around their version of events, convincing everyone in their circle that they were right, that you were wrong, that they had no choice but to do what they did. And in one conversation, in one moment of clarity, in one high-level player's refusal to accept their narrative at face value, that entire consensus shattered like glass hitting concrete. The emperor has no clothes. The story has no substance. And now everyone who backed it is standing there exposed, vulnerable, and desperate to avoid being associated with the lie. Here's what they're realizing right now in their private panic sessions. They can't attack this person. They can't discredit them. Can't call them biased. Can't say they don't know what they're talking about. Because this is someone they've spent years respecting, praising, following, agreeing with on every other topic. So when this person turns around and questions their judgment on this one specific situation, They have exactly two options. Admit they might have been wrong, or try to convince this high-level player that they're wrong, which, good luck with that. And both options terrify them because both options require them to face something they've been running from since day one. Accountability. Let me tell you what's happening in their minds right now as they scramble to figure out their next move. They're running through scenarios like a computer, processing every possible outcome, every potential consequence. If we double down and defend our position, we look defensive and guilty. If we stay silent, it looks like we're hiding something. If we reach out to this high-level player to explain our side, we might dig ourselves deeper. If we try to discredit them, everyone will turn on us. If we admit we might have been wrong, we lose everything we built on being right. See the trap. See how truth creates a maze with no exit for liars. Every direction they turn leads to exposure. Every path they take ends in revelation. Every move they make brings them closer to the moment they've been desperately avoiding. And some of them, the smart ones, the ones with even a shred of self-awareness left, they're already in damage control mode. They're reaching out through back channels, sending mutual friends as messengers, crafting carefully worded apologies that somehow manage to avoid actually apologizing, testing the waters to see if there's any possible way to salvage their reputation before this gets worse. I've been thinking about everything that happened. Maybe I didn't have the full story. I might have reacted too quickly. Is there any way we can talk about this? And it's pathetic. Watching people who had all the power, all the control, all the confidence suddenly become small and desperate when the truth finally catches up to them. But here's the thing they don't understand. Here's what they're completely missing in their panic. This isn't about them anymore. This isn't about their redemption arc. This isn't about them finding a way to make themselves feel better about what they did. Because while they were living their comfortable lives, while they were sleeping soundly in their self-justified beds, while they were moving on with their lives unburdened by guilt or shame, you were doing the actual work. You were processing the betrayal, healing from the wounds they inflicted, rebuilding yourself from the ashes they left behind, transforming into something they no longer recognize. And now they want to come back. Now they want to acknowledge they might have been hasty. Now they want consideration they never gave you. The audacity, the sheer audacity of thinking they can just show up after a high-level player confirms your story and expect you to welcome them back with open arms. They had 1,000 opportunities to do the right thing. 1,000 moments where they could have paused, reconsidered, examined the evidence without bias, given you the benefit of the doubt. But they didn't. Because it was easier to believe the lie, easier to side with the majority, easier to sacrifice you than to risk their own social standing. And now that someone they respect has made it socially acceptable to question the narrative, now they want to act like they always had doubts, like they were always on the fence, like they never really fully committed to destroying your reputation. But you remember, don't you? You remember every name that went silent, every face that looked away, every person who chose their comfort over your truth. You remember the nights you spent replaying conversations, wondering if you were crazy, questioning your own memory, doubting your own perception because they were so confident, so united, so absolutely certain that you were wrong. And now this high-level player, someone who wasn't there, someone who has no emotional investment, someone who simply looked at the facts with clear eyes, just confirmed what you knew in your bones the entire time. You weren't crazy, you weren't dramatic, you weren't wrong. They were, and they knew it, and they chose to lie anyway. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Here's where the psychology of this situation becomes absolutely fascinating. This high-level player isn't just confirming your story. They're implicitly calling out everyone who denied it. Because when someone credible says, "This doesn't make sense," what they're really saying is, "Why did all of you accept this without question?" And that question, that simple question hanging in the air like a storm cloud, is now forcing everyone who took their side to examine their own judgment, their own critical thinking, their own willingness to participate in a coordinated campaign against someone who might have been telling the truth. And that examination, that moment of forced self-reflection, is uncomfortable, is painful, is something most of them will do anything to avoid. So they're doing what cowards always do when confronted with their own complicity in someone else's pain. They're making excuses. We didn't know the full story. We were just going off what we heard. They seemed so convincing. How were we supposed to know? We trusted the wrong people. And maybe some of that is true. Maybe some of them genuinely didn't know they were participating in a character assassination. But here's what they're not saying. Here's what they're carefully avoiding. They didn't try to know. They didn't ask questions. They didn't demand evidence. They didn't give you a chance to defend yourself before they chose their side. They made a choice, maybe a lazy choice, maybe an easier choice, but a choice nonetheless. And now they're learning that choices have consequences. This high-level player's confirmation isn't just validating you. It's creating a ripple effect through your entire former social circle. People who were comfortable in their judgments are now uncomfortable. People who were confident are now questioning. People who dismissed you are now wondering if they dismissed too quickly. And this discomfort, this cognitive dissonance they're experiencing, it's forcing them to confront a possibility they've been suppressing for months or years. What if they were wrong? What if they hurt an innocent person? What if they were the villains in this story all along? And for some of them, that possibility is too heavy to carry, too painful to accept, too damaging to their self-image as good people who make good decisions. So watch what happens next. Watch the patterns unfold in exactly the way I'm about to describe. Some of them will double down, will insist even harder that they were right, will attack this high-level player's credibility, will create new narratives to explain away the inconsistencies. These are the ones too proud to admit error, too invested in being right, too fragile to handle the weight of their own cruelty. Others will go silent, will remove themselves from the conversation, will pretend they were never really that involved anyway, will quietly distance themselves from the people they once stood beside. These are the cowards, the ones who were only there because it was safe, because everyone else was there, because there was no social cost to joining the mob. But then there's a third group. And this is the group you need to watch most carefully. These are the ones who will try to rewrite history, who will claim they always had doubts, who will say they tried to defend you but were shut down, who will position themselves as secret allies who were just waiting for the right moment to speak up. And they'll come to you with apologies that sound sincere but feel hollow, with explanations that make logical sense but ring emotionally false, with requests for forgiveness that are really requests for their own absolution. And you need to understand something crucial about this group. They're not sorry they hurt you. They're sorry they got caught being wrong. Because if this high-level player had never spoken up, if the truth had stayed buried, if their narrative had remained unchallenged, these people would still be sleeping soundly at night. They wouldn't lose a single moment of sleep over what they did to you. Wouldn't question their choices. Wouldn't examine their role in your pain. But now that someone they respect has made it uncomfortable